There was a moment when politics stopped feeling distant and started feeling cinematic. The lighting became softer. The speeches became smoother. The country began experiencing itself through television screens instead of direct reality. And at the center of that transition stood a former Hollywood actor, Ronald Reagan, smiling, calm, charismatic, not simply leading the nation, but broadcasting a feeling. And perhaps that feeling changed America more than the policies themselves. Welcome to Mysterious Encounters. Tonight's case file explores Ronald Reagan, the rise of the televised presidency, and the moment political power fully merged with media performance. Because sometimes history changes, not through force, but through frequency. Before politics, Reagan understood cameras. He understood timing, emotional tone, delivery, audience perception. Years in Hollywood taught him something many leaders before him never fully grasped. People do not only respond to information, they respond to atmosphere. By the time Reagan entered the White House in 1981, television had already become America's emotional center. Families gathered around glowing screens nightly. Reality itself increasingly arrived through broadcasts, and Reagan fit the medium perfectly. Warm voice, controlled pacing, relaxed confidence. He did not feel like a distant politician. He felt familiar, like someone already invited into the living room. Reagan's presidency marked a major psychological shift in America. Politics became increasingly cinematic. Not necessarily false, but framed, carefully lit speeches, patriotic visual composition, narrative simplified into emotionally memorable imagery. The nation no longer experienced leadership primarily through policy documents or direct civic engagement. It experienced leadership through television perception. And television changes reality in subtle ways. The screen compresses complexity. It rewards charisma over nuance, emotion over depth, symbolism over detail. The image becomes stronger than the infrastructure behind it. And once societies begin living primarily through mediated perception, the performance itself starts shaping reality. One of Reagan's most powerful tools was optimism, not aggressive dominance. Reassurance, morning in America, comforting speeches, confident smiles, patriotic warmth during periods of uncertainty. And psychologically, this mattered enormously. Because the 1970s had left America emotionally exhausted. Economic instability, political distrust, social fragmentation, post-war disillusionment. Reagan transmitted emotional certainty into that atmosphere. But while the public focused on the reassuring signal, deeper structural transformations accelerated beneath the surface. Corporate expansion, financial deregulation, media consolidation, surveillance infrastructure growth, the merging of entertainment and politics. The broadcast remained comforting. The system underneath quietly evolved. Today, politics often feels inseparable from spectacle, sound bites, visual branding, emotional polarization, narrative warfare across screens. But much of that modern structure traces back to this era. Reagan demonstrated that perception itself could become political power, not merely governing the country, but shaping the emotional atmosphere surrounding governance. And perhaps this is why modern politics increasingly resembles entertainment, because television trained audiences to consume leadership emotionally before intellectually. The candidate became a character, a narrative, a symbol, a frequency people emotionally tuned into long before social media. America had already begun transitioning into image-based reality. Why call this the Reagan frequency? Because Reagan represented more than a presidency. He represented a transmission, a new cultural wavelength where image became infrastructure, performance became governance, broadcast became national identity. The screen no longer reflected America, it started constructing America emotionally in real time. And once societies become emotionally synchronized through centralized media, reality itself becomes easier to guide through narrative framing, not necessarily through lies, but through selective emotional emphasis. The feeling becomes more important than the complexity underneath it. Perhaps Ronald Reagan was not the cause of this transformation. Perhaps he was simply the perfect figure for the moment television, fully merged with political consciousness, the actor-president, the broadcast leader. The smiling face transmitted into millions of homes simultaneously. And maybe that is why the era still feels strangely familiar today, because modern culture still operates through the same mechanism, attention guided through screens, emotion shaped through presentation, reality experienced through performance. The frequency never disappeared, it only evolved. This was Mysterious Encounters, the Reagan Frequency, and sometimes the most powerful leaders are not the ones who control reality directly, but the ones who shape how reality feels through the screen.